I always thought anniversaries were sacred, at least ours were. Every year, I did something thoughtful. It wasn't about money or some grand gesture, it was about intention. Macy used to say the little things mattered more than diamonds. A handwritten note over a Tiffany box any day, she used to claim. Maybe that's why I thought I had everything under control. I paid attention, I remembered, I cared. So this year, I went all in. I left work early, told my team I had somewhere important to be. Picked up the bouquet Macy loved most, white calla lilies, the kind she held in her bridal bouquet. The florist even remembered me. 10 years already? She asked, with a soft smile. You must really love her. I just smiled back and said, more than anything. The gift, though, that was the real surprise. I'd spent weeks searching for it. Macy once showed me this vintage gold locket in an antique catalog she kept bookmarked. It had this filigree design, delicate but timeless. She said it reminded her of her grandmother and how one day she wanted to pass something like that down. I found the exact one, had our initials engraved on the back in a tiny, sweeping script. Inside, I placed a folded photo of the two of us from our honeymoon. The other half of the locket was left blank. For the future, I'd thought. In the glove box was an envelope with something even more sentimental than the locket, notarized documents finalizing the sale of our apartment and securing a down payment on a lakeside home upstate. Macy used to talk about it when she was feeling overwhelmed, how she wanted to wake up to the sound of water and birds instead of traffic and sirens. I spent the last 2 months planning it behind her back, negotiating, coordinating with realtors. All of it was for her. For us. I parked in our usual spot behind the complex, balancing the bouquet and gift box in one hand, the keys in the other. I remember smiling like a fool the whole walk up the stairs. But the second I turned the doorknob, I knew something was off. It wasn't silent like I expected. I heard music, low, jazzy, something unfamiliar playing from the speaker in the living room. And then laughter. Macy's laughter. The kind that comes from deep in your chest. The kind I hadn't heard from her in weeks. Maybe longer. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, phone in hand, her face lit up by the screen. She didn't notice me at first and I stood frozen, just watching her. Her head tilted back, a giggle slipping out, thumb scrolling. Then she looked up and froze. Her entire posture shifted in less than a second. Like I'd walked in on something at asterisk mate. Something meant for someone else. Her thumb hit the lock button almost reflexively. She set the phone down like it had burned her. Hey, babe, she said, pushing a smile onto her face like a mask. I didn't hear you come in. I stepped inside slowly. That's when I saw it, the blazer. A man's navy blazer, carelessly tossed over the dining chair. Not mine. Not her brother's. Definitely not something I recognized. Then I noticed the wine glasses on the coffee table, 2 of them. One still had lipstick on the rim. Hers. The other was half full, deep red wine swirling gently inside. My mouth went dry. She followed my eyes. Oh, that, she said quickly, standing. That's nothing. Jarrett stopped by. Just an old friend from college. He was in the area. Her tone was breezy, but the words felt rushed. Overcompensating. Jarrett. The name didn't register. She was already moving toward me, arms slightly open as if she was going to hug me but changed her mind halfway through. She took the bouquet with a soft ah, but it sounded too rehearsed. Then she took the box from my hand, her fingers brushing against mine like static. What's this? She asked, peeling off the ribbon. I watched her carefully. She sat on the arm of the couch and opened it, revealing the locket nestled in velvet. She stared at it for a moment, then let out a short, awkward laugh. A locket? How classic. Classic. Not beautiful. Not thoughtful. Not I love it. She didn't ask about the engraving or the photo or the meaning. Just set it down on the kitchen counter next to the cork from the wine bottle. I stood there completely still, like a guest in my own home. She must have noticed the silence because she turned back around. Sorry, I didn't plan anything huge, she said. Work's been crazy and well, you know how it is. I figured we'd maybe order in later. I nodded slowly. I didn't trust my voice yet. She disappeared into the kitchen, fiddling with the wine bottle. You want a glass? She asked. There's still some left. No, I said. My throat was tight. She poured one for herself instead, filling the glass she had already used. The one with the lipstick mark. She didn't bother replacing it. I didn't know we were exchanging gifts this year, she added, sipping. I thought we said we'd keep it simple. I didn't respond. Instead, I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the envelope and set it beside the locket. She glanced at it but didn't open it. What's this? She asked. You can look later, I said, turning away. It's something you once said you wanted. She blinked, confused. Is this about the lake house? I didn't answer. Just walked toward the bedroom, the tension trailing behind me like fog. She called out after me, something light like, "Don't be weird, Noah," and laughed again. That same dismissive, airy laugh that had greeted my gift. Like this was all some joke. I closed the door behind me and sat on the edge of the bed, the weight of her reaction settling into my chest. That's when it hit me, not all at once, but in layers. The man's blazer. The half-finished wine. The locked phone. Her laughter, not for me. Her touch, not mine. And the way she'd smiled like I was just another guest at a party she hadn't meant to invite. I thought I was walking into a celebration. But I had no idea I was the only one who brought a gift. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wide awake. I could hear Macy moving around the apartment, washing her glass, brushing her teeth, closing the hallway light. The usual routine. Except everything felt wrong. There was no confrontation. No fight. Just a quiet, measured distance that had grown between us like fog on a windshield, gradual at first, until suddenly I couldn't see through it anymore. When I heard the door to the guest room creak open, she hadn't slept in our bed for the past few weeks. I knew I was alone in more ways than one. I rolled over, closed my eyes, and tried to fall asleep. But my mind wouldn't let me. It began pulling threads, moments I had dismissed, conversations I had brushed off, changes I had chalked up to stress, to work, to life. And once I started noticing, I couldn't stop. She had started wearing makeup to the gym. Not just the tinted lip balm and a dash of concealer kind of makeup. No, full face, foundation and liner type. I remember teasing her about it once. Trying to impress the treadmill? I had joked. She laughed too hard. Too quickly. Then gave me a sideways glance and said, "Maybe I just want to feel good about myself." Is that a crime? I hadn't pushed it. She had been getting home later, too. Not just by a few minutes. Whole hours. And she never had a consistent excuse. Meeting ran long. Caught traffic. Stopped for a smoothie. But it always sounded vague. Vague and final, like a full stop at the end of a sentence I wasn't invited to question. And then her phone. It became an extension of her body, never left behind, never face up, always silenced. She took it into the bathroom when she showered. Even to the balcony when she watered the plants. If I so much as glanced at the screen when a notification lit up, she'd shift it away. I remember the first time I asked, "Hey, why is your phone always on silent these days?" She looked at me, almost annoyed. "Work's been intense. I need the peace." I nodded, accepting it. Because what else was I supposed to do? Accuse her of something I didn't have proof of? But it was more than just the logistics. It was her tone, her words, her entire emotional climate had shifted. She began talking like someone who had already made up their mind about something. Like she was trying to convince herself she was still in love, or maybe that she didn't need to be. She'd say things like, "People change, Noah. That's just life." Or, "I wonder what it would have been like if I'd taken that job in LA. She stopped asking about my day. Stopped checking in. Stopped sending those little texts in the middle of meetings that said, "Thinking of you, Reheart." It was as if a switch had flipped. One morning, I noticed she had changed her perfume. The scent that used to cling to her, the one that reminded me of our first date, soft jasmine and citrus, was gone. Replaced with something heavier. Muskier. Something that didn't remind me of her at all. I asked about it offhandedly over breakfast. "New perfume." She shrugged. Felt like trying something different. No explanation. No smile. Just a shrug. Like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. Not to me. And then there were the passwords. She changed them all: email, social media, even the Netflix account. I only found out when I tried to log in and saw that my access was denied. When I brought it up, she waved it off. "Just cleaning things up," she said. Too many people had my info. Too many people. I was her husband. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. These weren't isolated incidents. They were part of something larger. A slow, calculated withdrawal from our marriage, our life, me. She had started talking about identity. Reinvention. Words she used to scoff at in self-help books now rolled off her tongue like gospel. "It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm living someone else's life, you know," she told me once while folding laundry. "No," I'd replied, genuinely confused. She didn't elaborate. Just smiled to herself like I couldn't possibly understand. That same week she said, "Do you ever think about who we'd be if we hadn't met when we did?" I had looked up from my laptop, surprised. "No, not really." She had nodded thoughtfully. "I think about that a lot." Even the way she touched me had changed. There was a distance in it, like her hand couldn't quite remember what mine used to feel like. No more casual brushes against my back as she walked by. No more lingering hugs after long days. Just perfunctory gestures like checking a box. At the time, I told myself it was a rough patch. Every couple has them. Life gets busy, people get tired. But now, lying in the dark, I realized I had been rationalizing something much bigger. Something I didn't want to face. She wasn't pulling away from life, she was pulling away from me. I got out of bed sometime after 2 a.m. and walked quietly into the living room. The locket still sat on the counter, unopened. The envelope with the house documents still untouched. Like she hadn't even thought about them since I handed them over. I picked up the box and opened it just to remind myself why I had done all this. Why I had gone through so much trouble. Inside was the photo of us, sunburned and grinning on the beach in Tulum, my arms slung lazily around her shoulder, her nose scrunched in that way it used to when she laughed. That version of her felt like a lifetime ago. I placed the box down carefully, then reached for the envelope. It felt heavier now. Like a relic of a dream I hadn't realized was already dead. The lake house had a dock, a wide porch, and a fireplace. She used to describe it in vivid detail after we'd fight about work or bills or noise from the neighbors. Just imagine it, Noah, she'd say. Us in the water and nothing else. And I had imagined it. I had built my entire plan around it. Around her. But maybe she never meant it. Or maybe she did, just not with me. I stood there for a long time, watching the shadows on the walls shift as the streetlight outside flickered. And for the first time in months, I let the truth in. This wasn't just a rift. This was erosion. Something deeper. Something that had been happening for a long time while I smiled and handed her flowers, thinking love could patch over anything. But love can't fill the void when someone's already made room for someone else. I always told myself I wasn't the kind of person who snooped. That was the line. The boundary. The thing I thought separated the healthy relationships from the broken ones. You trust until you're given a reason not to. You respect privacy. You don't go digging. But that night, something in me shifted. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was finally giving in to the truth my instincts had been screaming at me for weeks. Macy's keychain had this little leather tag she never took off. I gave it to her 3 years ago, one of those custom ones you get with initials engraved. I remembered how touched she was at the time, said it was sweet, practical, thoughtful. That's what she always said about me. Thoughtful. Dependable. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat on the edge of our bed, holding that same tag in my hand, running my thumb along the stitched edges. Inside it, tucked into the leather fold, was a tiny tracking chip. The kind meant for finding lost wallets or keys. I had bought it months ago, back when I thought she was losing things. Back when I thought all of this could be fixed with reminders and better habits. I never activated it. But I had the app. The chip. And now, I needed the truth more than I needed to feel honorable. I activated it just before sunrise. Her phone buzzed around 9 a.m., a casual chime like any other morning. I was making coffee in the kitchen, pretending to be unfazed. She walked in, her hair damp from the shower, and gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm heading to my sister's later, she said, pulling a banana from the fruit bowl. She needs help with some stuff around the house. Tell her I said hey, I replied, voice even. Macy nodded, scrolling through her phone as she ate. I'll be back late. Don't wait up. I gave her a small smile. I won't. She left shortly after, keys jingling, door clicking shut. I waited 3 minutes. Then opened the app. The pin blinked to life on my screen. Not downtown, not near her sister's house in Roswell. No. She was headed towards St. John's Hill, a neighborhood known for its gated homes and manicured lawns, the kind of place where everything looked polished, expensive, untouchable. I sat in the car for a few minutes before deciding to go. Not out of revenge. Not out of rage. Just, I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed the lie to collapse under its own weight. The address she pinged at was a modern 2-story home tucked between tall pines. Glass and steel, minimalist design. Not the kind of place you just stop by. I didn't get out of the car. I just parked across the street, keeping my engine running, my hands gripping the wheel tight. 10 minutes later, I saw her. She stepped out of her car with a tote bag slung over her shoulder, hair pulled up in that loose bun she always wore when she wanted to look casually elegant. Her walk was unhurried, comfortable. Like she'd been here before. Like this was familiar. And then the door opened. A man stepped out. Maybe late 30s. Trim beard. Crisp button-down rolled up at the sleeves. He smiled when he saw her. They hugged close, like people who knew each other's bodies. Not a friend. Not a cousin. Not her sister's anything. Just him. They didn't look around. Didn't check for onlookers. Just walked inside like it was any other day. I sat there for a long time after that, staring at the closed door. Around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from her. Hey babe, staying a little longer. Just wants me to help her sort through some boxes in the garage. Might grab dinner after. Don't wait up. Don't wait up. There was something bitterly ironic in how casually she lied. How easily it rolled off her fingers like muscle memory. I read the message again slower. Then again. It didn't even feel like her anymore. Not the woman I married. Not the girl who cried when I proposed under the old pier. I didn't reply. I didn't even close the app. I just sat there until the sun dipped behind the houses and the porch lights started flickering on. Eventually, I drove home. Not in a rage. Not with heartbreak pounding in my chest. Just numb. Silent. I heated leftovers. Ate without tasting them. Took a shower. Sat on the couch. Around 9 p.m., another text came. Too tired to drive. Crashing at Jess's. Love you. Love you. I stared at those 2 words until they blurred. Then deleted the message. The next morning, I checked the tracker again. She was still at the same address. Around 8:30, the pin began to move. She returned home around 9:10, keys jangling, the smell of coffee trailing behind her. Morning, she said, cheerful, slipping her shoes off. I looked up from my laptop and gave her a nod. Morning. She leaned over the back of the couch and kissed my cheek. Thanks for letting me crash there. I was wiped. I nodded. I figured. She smiled, then wandered off to the bedroom, humming to herself. The illusion was still intact. For her, anyway. But for me, it was over. That hug. That man. That house. Her lies. I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't unknow it. The truth was no longer hidden, it was standing fully lit in the center of my reality. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't insecurity. This was fact. And for the first time, I stopped making excuses. She had made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. The thing about confirmation is it doesn't bring peace. You imagine it will. That once you know, the ache will turn into anger or resolution or some kind of clarity. But that's not what happened to me. Knowing Macy had lied, had been touched by someone else, had fallen into someone else's arms, it didn't make me feel powerful. It made me feel hollow. Like all the pieces I'd carefully built into our life had been quietly removed, leaving only a shell. An echo. But even in that emptiness, something shifted. I stopped waiting. That next morning, while she hummed in the shower like nothing had happened, I powered up my laptop and started searching. I had no plan at first. Just a name, Jarrett Lawrence. He didn't come up in Macy's call log or texts, at least not by that name. But I had seen his face. I knew the house. And the way he touched her, that wasn't new. So I started from there. A few clicks later, I found him. His profile on a local business registry was polished. He was listed as the founder of a boutique real estate firm called Lawrence Property Advisors. The photo on the company site matched the man I saw at the house. Clean-cut. Confident. The kind of guy who sold charm before contracts. But something felt off. Too curated. Too smooth. I started digging deeper. His name appeared on multiple business filings, different LLCs, different cities. All connected, but not in an obvious way. Some dissolved, some still active. His company websites were sleek but vague. The same buzzwords repeated over and over: discretion, client first, legacy wealth. What bothered me most was how many of the reviews felt scripted. As if they were written by the same person using different accounts. So I kept digging. I found a forum thread on a financial whistleblower site. Buried among posts about shady investment schemes and pyramid structures, someone had mentioned a Jarrett L. in relation to a high-yield property investment pitch that collapsed within months. No follow-up, no resolution. Just whispers, but enough to set off alarm bells. By noon, I was scouring social media. Pattern emerged. Photos of Jarrett with different women. Always taken at trendy restaurants, luxury cabins, beachside resorts. None of the women were tagged. None of them appeared more than once. But the setups were all eerily similar: wine, charm, warmth. The look of a man making someone feel seen. A Reddit post sealed it for me. It was from a woman in Tampa, posted under a throwaway account. She described meeting a real estate consultant named Jarrett who swept her off her feet, talked her into investing in a joint venture, then ghosted after she wired the money. Her post ended with, "He knew exactly what to say, exactly when to say it. I thought I was the only one, but now I'm not so sure. I wasn't just dealing with infidelity anymore. Macy hadn't just cheated, she'd been targeted." I logged into our joint financial app and started combing through recent activity. Most of our funds were stable. My salary hit our primary account. Bills were paid, nothing out of the ordinary. But the inheritance account, that was different. It was under her name, left to her by her late aunt 2 years ago. I had encouraged her to keep it separate. "It's yours," I'd said. "Something just for you." A gesture of trust. I accessed the monthly statements and scrolled through. That's when I saw it. A $50,000 withdrawal, labeled as a personal transfer. No linked account. No notes. I felt sick. I checked the date. 3 weeks ago. Right around when she started staying late more often. Right around when the perfume changed. Right around when I stopped recognizing her. She had given him access. Not just to her heart, but to her finances. And I knew Macy. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't the type to gamble. If she gave him that money, he sold her a dream. Something curated just for her. I could practically hear the pitch. "You're not just investing in property, you're investing in freedom." I closed the laptop, sat back, and let it sink in. This wasn't about love, or lust, or even emotional distance. This was a pattern. She had been exploited. And the worst part? She didn't even know it. That night, I sat across from her at the dinner table. She was animated, talking about some podcast she'd started listening to. Something about creativity and reinvention. She used words like alignment and intention. She sounded like someone trying to become someone else. I nodded, smiled in all the right places, played my role. She didn't notice a thing. And that's when I realized I couldn't save her from this. Not without exposing everything. Not without dragging the shame into the open. So I made a decision. If I couldn't protect her heart, I would protect our assets. By the time she fell asleep on the couch, curled up with her laptop open to an online course about minimalism, I had already started downloading financial records, backing up messages, saving **TS of her transaction history and the evidence I had found about Jarrett. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. I was going to build my case. Because now it wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about justice. Grief makes people sloppy. Rage makes them worse. But silence, real, intentional silence, is a **P***N. And I was ready to use it. By morning, I had a plan. I didn't cry. I didn't pace the floor or rehearse an emotional speech in my head. I brewed coffee, got dressed, and sat at the kitchen table while Macy got ready for work like it was any other day. She was humming again. Humming had become her cover for everything. A few weeks ago, it would have comforted me. Now, it sounded like a smoke alarm with the battery dying. Unsettling, constant, and impossible to ignore. "You want anything from the store later?" she asked casually as she grabbed her purse. "No," I said without looking up. "I've got it." She kissed the top of my head and walked out the door. I waited until the hallway was quiet before making the first call. Marcus Langford was a former client. Now a lawyer. Discreet. Precise. The kind of guy you called when you needed things done quietly but thoroughly. I didn't even explain the situation at first. Just told him I had a set of documents, digital records, and location logs that needed to be reviewed and, if warranted, escalated. He was in my living room by 2 p.m. that same day. "I've dealt with marital fraud before," he said, flipping through the stack I had printed. "But this is something else." I had organized everything by timeline. GPS pings from the tracker. **TS of messages. Her financial withdrawals. Background on Jarrett. The Tampa Victims Forum post. Business filings. "This guy's either brilliant or reckless," Marcus said. "Possibly both. And your wife, she's not the first." "Not the first," I repeated even though I already knew. "No," he said, "but she might be the one that cracks it." We set up encrypted backups, created a secure drive, and drafted an anonymous tip to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We submitted another one to the state licensing board under a pseudonym. Jarrett's firm, his fake empire, was now on record. Officially. After Marcus left, I called our bank. I didn't freeze accounts. That would tip her off. I quietly removed her as an authorized user on anything joint. Shifted funds into new protected accounts. Moved my direct deposit. I retained control but let the structure appear untouched. She wouldn't notice. Not yet. I changed the security settings on our home Wi-Fi. Installed encrypted backup software on my personal laptop. Installed a hidden camera on the front door and 2 inside, one in the living room and one by the office. Not to catch her. I already had what I needed. This was now about documentation, control, containment. When Macy came home that night, everything looked normal. She set her bag on the counter, kicked off her shoes. I offered to order takeout. She smiled. That'd be nice. We sat on the couch watching some show neither of us cared about. She leaned against my shoulder. I let her. I played my part. She didn't know that while she scrolled through Pinterest, looking at images of lake homes and minimalist kitchens, I had already transferred the title of the apartment into my name, legally, through premarital funds and Marcus's carefully timed filings. She didn't know I had rescinded her authority on our healthcare proxies, or that I'd locked access to our shared cloud drives. She didn't know that her world, the one she was trying so hard to escape, was already being dismantled behind her. The next day, I made one more move. I walked into our HR department and submitted a temporary address change and contact information update. Just for a few weeks, I told them. Going through something at home. They nodded, no questions asked. Every insurance file, tax document, and retirement statement that once had both our names was now being split. Discreetly, cleanly, like slicing through fabric with a scalpel. She still laughed at night. Still talked about things she wanted to do, travel, maybe start a podcast, go back to school for design. I smiled. I encouraged her, because I wasn't trying to win her back. I wasn't even trying to punish her. I was building an exit, a firewall, a future that no longer included her. By the time we hit Sunday, she was talking about inviting her sister for a weekend at the lake. We could do a soft move, she said. Drive up, see the house, make it feel real. I just nodded. Yeah, we could. She leaned her head against my shoulder again and whispered, I think we're finally turning a corner, you know? And I nodded again, because we were, just not in the direction she thought. It happened faster than I expected. The anonymous tips Marcus submitted to the regulators hit their mark. Jarrett's office, his boutique real estate firm, the crown jewel of his performance, received a formal inquiry from the Financial Practices Oversight Bureau. Just a letter at first, then a phone call. Then, 2 men walked into his building in downtown Bellevue claiming to be private auditors. They weren't auditors. They were former military contractors hired by one of Jarrett's other victims in Los Angeles. Their mission was simple: make him panic, rattle the illusion of invincibility he'd built for himself. And it worked. By Monday evening, Macy's phone lit up with a dozen missed calls from Jarrett. She sat across the room from me, frowning as she dialed him back. Babe? What's going on? Her voice was soft, cautious. Whatever he said made her eyes widen. She got up, walked into the kitchen, speaking in hushed tones. I didn't need to listen. I already knew what he was telling her. That someone was on to him, that she might be part of it, that she needed to disappear or lie or cut contact altogether. By Wednesday, she received a formal letter from the Office of Financial Integrity, notifying her of a flagged transaction involving her inheritance account. Suspicious movement of funds. Potential laundering. She came into the bedroom that night holding the envelope, her hands trembling. Noah, do you know what this is about? I looked at the paper calmly and handed it back. No idea, I said, but maybe you should talk to your friend. She didn't say anything. The next day, Marcus's team submitted the complete dossier to the authorities. Evidence of Jarrett's multi-city fraud, the $50,000 transaction, and Macy's involvement. My name was absent from every page. Within hours, Jarrett vanished. He deleted his website, removed all social media accounts. His office went dark. And Macy was left alone. Her phone went unanswered, her texts unread. The man she had defended, lied for, fallen for, evaporated the second things got hard. And now the only person left in her corner was me. Or so she thought. But I had already filed the divorce papers. 6 months later, it was all over. Macy accepted a deal to avoid a full criminal trial. Probation, restitution of the $50,000 to the victim pool, and the forfeiture of any claims to our shared property. She signed the divorce agreement with a shaking hand, eyes glassy but dry. She lost everything. The apartment, her savings, her credibility, her name in the community. Our friends drifted away quietly. Some had known. Most had just seen enough. Jarrett, of course, was never found. He slipped through the cracks with whatever money he had left, likely onto a plane under a different name, starting the cycle somewhere else. And me? I moved. I relocated to a smaller town, launched a modest consulting firm, and started over. Clean slate. No headlines, no whispers. Just me. On the day before Macy moved out of the city, part of her deal, I came home to find her standing on the front steps. No suitcase. Just a small box and the locket I had given her finally opened. "I thought you should have this back," she said quietly. I took it. Didn't say anything. She didn't apologize. She didn't cry. She just stood there for a moment, then turned and walked to her car. I watched her drive away without a word. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I walked back inside to a home that was entirely mine. No shadows, no lies, just silence and peace.